Dave?
It really.
I mean, it says right there on the screen what people are who we're going to be talking to, but let's tell them anyway. Eric Litt, he's written his second book about the movies for our Cards Press.
He's a movie super fan.
His first book, Oscars Big Mistakes, came out a couple of years ago. We've had him on the show to predict the Oscars the last 3 years, and he's done a very good job.
And let the record show he's a much better predictor than most pollsters in America.
Yes, that is true. His new book is called Worth a Second Look, and it's full of recommendations for terrific films in all different genres. So let's get to it. It's time for Eric Litt.
The following is a Tony Lasano podcast, an Opie show on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. This is the Minutia Man Celebrity Interview with Rick and Dave.
Welcome to the show, Eric Litt. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
You know, Eric, if I told you how much time my wife and I spend endlessly scrolling the choices on Netflix, it would be humiliating. I'm convinced we spend more time doing that than we do actually watching.
Do you want to watch this now? Do you want to watch this now?
Yeah, and we can never agree on anything ever. There's so much out there, it's overwhelming. And I think that must be the reason why you wrote this book. Is that true?
That is true, and I'm so glad I can be a service to so many people. Yeah, that is pretty much.
Eric, you're a marriage counselor.
You
basically.
are.
You save marriages.
Yeah, I mean, that's precisely why I pretty much wrote the book. I mean, it's there. I've got every streaming service there is except for one. I don't have Apple Plus, but I've got all the other ones, and I can spend like a half an hour, 40, just going through each category on their screen, just going each one and going by all the streamers. And it's like, you know what? I've probably looked at about 300 titles and there's nothing for me to watch. I can't, I mean, all the big movies are there. If you want a Marvel film, you could find them. If you want, if you want a Dune or a blockbuster, I mean, you could find them, or a franchise film. Or a tentpole film, but if you want to
see The Rock,
but you've seen him,
you're going to see The Rock. Right. He's out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, okay, I'm going through Netflix. Oh, look, Nicole Kidman's in something else. And, it's like, it's apparently AMC's not paying Nicole Kidman enough to be alone in a movie theater because she is in virtually everything that is streaming right now. I've never seen. She's been in so much stuff. And same thing with The Rock and John Cena and Mark Wahlberg. I mean, they all star the same people, and it's like, finding films are really difficult to watch, and the stuff in the theater is less and less. They're churning out less films, and the quality hasn't been very good either overall. So I thought this would be a good idea to put together a book full of titles that I want to recommend to people. They're movies that are a little bit underrated, maybe forgotten. There were hits back in the day, but people aren't really thinking about anymore. Maybe they're a guilty pleasure, a movie that you're a little embarrassed watching. It's maybe not that great, but you really like it. And so you want to let other people know about it, or just a hidden gem, a really good film that maybe people haven't really heard of. And so I handpicked about 200 titles and I threw them in this book. I got some help from some Facebook fans, and then and that's where this came from.
Okay. I like how that you divided them by genre, and let's go over a few of them. The biggest section is the crime and action section. Give us a couple of your choices for that genre. The rules are no blockbusters, no Academy Award nominees, something we just may have missed the first time around, or maybe we saw and we didn't remember, or whatever.
Yeah, well, it's actually action and thrillers and crime are two separate categories. But from thrillers and crime, the one that I really like that came to mind, well, there's two of them that really came to mind. One is called House of Games, which is from all the way back in 1987. That is, I would call that a hidden gem film. It's a movie that didn't make any money. It's a great, great movie. It's directed by David Mamet, who's better known as a playwright. He wrote Glengarry Glen Ross, Speed the Plow, among other things. And this was one of the films he's directed. He only directed about maybe 6 or 7 movies. This was one of his first films, and it's about a bored therapist played by Lindsay Krause, and she gets involved in one of her patients tells her that he's in debt with some money and he needs some help, and she's bored. She's looking for excitement, so she goes down to this seedy club at night and to try and gather some information, maybe help him out. And she gets involved in this card game with led by Joe Mantegna and another bunch of cronies. And the whole thing develops into a big con. And so she gets wrapped into it, and she has no idea what she's involved with, but she's enamored by the whole thing. And she gets wrapped up into it and eventually gets her in some trouble, but it's a very well-written film. And if you know David Mamet, he's got a really distinctive speech pattern, the way he writes.
Snappy dialogue.
Very snappy dialogue. Very snappy dialogue. Yeah. So that'd be one. And another one is a little bit more obvious film, which is Brian De Palma's Blowout, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. That's from all the way back to 1981. It's also John Travolta's best film, in my opinion. He'd just come off of Carrie and Saturday Night Fever and Urban Cowboy and Grease, so he was a big star. But this is one of the first films he had to do where he didn't have to sing or dance. And it's got full of all of De Palma's trickery and fun camera work. And anyway, Travolta plays a sound man who inadvertently tapes an accident where a car goes into a river, and he rescues there's two people in the car, and he rescues the girl in the car, and the girl's not supposed to be there, and her companion in the car is a politician.
Yeah.
And it turns into if it's revealed that the politician was with this woman who happened to have been a hooker, she's played by Nancy Allen, it could be very bad publicly. So
not really.
That gets
not really. We have seen that kind of stuff doesn't really matter.
As it turns out, nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Nowadays it's like, hey, they get elected president.
Yeah, right.
And so they have to cover it up, and it's sort of got a little bit of blow up into it. The 1960s film Blowout, and that's one of my favorite movies. Those would be two that I really like, and I would call Blowout more in the underrated section, because when you think of De Palma, you think of Carrie and Dressed to Kill and Scarface, and The Untouchables. Blowout kind of gets pushed under the rug a little bit. I know the movie's got a lot of fans, but this film I wanted to put out there to a larger audience, and so that would be two of them.
Those are both great ones. I've seen them both. Let's talk about my area, which is comedies. Those are my favorite things to watch, and I think I've seen them all. So you might have a hard time getting a couple past me, but I'm hoping that you can.
Okay, well, one of them I think I might be able to get past you, and that's called Real Life. That is one of Albert Brooks's. I think it might even actually be Albert Brooks's first movie. And Albert Brooks,
that's great.
You have seen it, okay? Well, Albert, this movie is really before its time. This came out in the 70s. This was before Lost in America, which I think is his best film, before Modern Romance and Defending Your Life and Mother. Anyway, Real Life is a film sort of before its time. He plays a movie producer. He's sort of playing himself, and he's filming. He goes into this town, and where he's supposed to be filming this ordinary family, and in the family is the father's played by Charles Grodin, and Charles Grodin's great and everything.
Right. And he's just funny looking at it. Everything he does, he just look at him.
He's got
funny.
The camera. So he's got the camera in this family, and he takes them everywhere in this little small suburban town, including the mom in the family. She goes to her gynecologist. He wants to bring the camera right into the office, and there's some really funny stuff in there. So that'd be one. And another one I'd recommend is Silent Movie, which you've probably seen.
Mel Brooks?
And the reason I chose silent movie is I wanted to get a Mel Brooks film in the book. Mel Brooks is one of my favorites of all time, and and I had to choose a movie, and it was really only two films to choose from because Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles, and The Producers, which are his three best films, three of my favorite films of his. Everybody knows they're big hits,
Right? Yeah.
And then you've got Spaceballs and History of the World. Those two those were big hits as well. And then you've got his lesser films, which is Life Stinks, 12 Chairs,
Yeah.
Dead Men, To Be or Not to Be, the Dracula film, and then Robin Hood Men in Tights, which I didn't think were very good. But then you've got the two. Then you've got Silent Movie and High Anxiety, which both came out around in the late 70s, and both are just hysterical. And I couldn't put both of them in there, so I had to choose one of them. So I chose Silent Movie. And if you need a laugh, if you're in your doldrums, like an afternoon like today after an evening like last night, this would be a great film to put on. It's only 87 minutes. It's just psych gag after psych gag, pratfall after pratfall, and it's just a perfect tight 87 minutes of just laughter, and it's nothing but silliness and fun. So
And star-studded. I mean,
it's star-studded. The premise. Paul Newman, Burt Reynolds, James Caan, Liza Minnelli, Anne Bancroft,
Marty Feldman,
Dom DeLuise, Bernadette Peters, Harold Gould, Sid Caesar. It's just a great cast, and it's so funny.
Yeah.
It's a nice tribute to silent films.
And it is
too.
actually a silent movie.
Well, there's one word, right?
It is a
one
very
word,
silent.
right.
Yes, it is. It is a silent movie, and there's only one word spoken in the entire film, and that's by Marcel Marceau,
who's a mime.
Who's a mime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of layers in that movie. And Eric, I'm kind of a world famous lover. I don't know if you knew that or not. But sometimes my charms aren't enough, and I need to set the mood, right? So do you have any romantic type movies in this book that perhaps, for people that are not as...
Well, I do. I have one. The one I picked out for this podcast is called "It Could Happen to You." It came out in 1994. It stars Nicolas Cage and Bridget Fonda, Rosie Perez, and Red Buttons of all people. And the reason I chose this one, it's just a nice, feel-good, funny, romantic film. It's Nicolas Cage had just come off of doing David Lynch's Wild at Heart and making some really dark films, and then he's sort of transitioned to doing some comedies. He did Honeymoon in Vegas, and then he did this film. Right before he started doing his trifecta of great action films, which was The Rock, Con Air, and Face Off. So anyway, It Could Happen to You. He plays a policeman who he buys a lottery ticket for his wife, who's played by Rosie Perez. Mm-hmm. They hit it big. They win the lottery, but before he bought the ticket, he went into a coffee shop and he saw a waitress played by Bridget Fonda who was having kind of a rough day, and he didn't have enough to give her a tip. So he promised her, if I win the lottery, I will give you half of what the lottery ticket was. And he hit it big, and in his mind, a promise is a promise, and he wanted to make sure that waitress played by Bridget Fonda gets half the money. Rosie Perez does not like that very much. She plays Nicolas Cage's wife, and she's sort of a snarky little money-grubbing woman anyway, so that causes trouble in the marriage. She ends up leaving him.
Wait!
And
don't tell us what happens.
No story. No.
I won't tell you what happened, but the two of them do end up. But him and the waitress do end up hooking up, and their trouble ensues. Blah 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 blah. But it's a really sweet film, and Bridget Fonda has never looked better. This was the early '90s when she was starring in a lot of stuff, and this is my favorite Bridget Fonda film. She looks great in the film, and the two of them have great chemistry, him and Cage. So that would be the romantic comedy I would recommend.
That's a good one. I've seen that.
It's another film that'll put you in a good mood.
Yeah, I'm liking all your choices so far. But as we head into the holiday season, we're bombarded by the same holiday movies over and over again. Well, we've all seen them a million times. Tell us a holiday film that's a little bit off the beaten path.
Okay, I don't have a whole lot of holiday films in the book. I only have like maybe a half dozen, but
that counts.
There's one thing about A Christmas Carol, the Charles Dickens story, is that there's dozens and dozens of versions of A Christmas Carol. So I chose two that I really liked. One is a musical that was by Albert Finney from 1970, just called Scrooge. What I like about that film is that, one, it looks great, and it's a musical, so it's a little different. But the other version I chose is A Christmas Carol from 1984, and this one stars George C. Scott, and I think George C. Scott is kind of a curmudgeon anyway, so I think he's perfectly cast in this film. And when working at WGN, when I was editing movies, I had to work on, we ran the 1951 Alistair Sin version every single year, and people consider that, the most truest version, the classic version. I find it the dullest version. I can't take it. Every time I've had to work on that film, I ended up falling asleep at my desk. So, but we also aired the George C. Scott version many times, and this version I always liked. I thought it had a great cast. Roger Rees is in it, and so is David Warner, who's a great character actor. He passed away a couple of years ago, and George C. Scott's in it, and it's traditional scale, traditional film, but he does it really well. The film moves along a little bit quick, a little bit better. It's paced better. It's just a version I really like, and when everybody thinks of the Christmas Carol, Ebenezer Scrooge films, they typically think of, the Bill Murray film, Scrooged, and then of course, the Muppets made a version, and so did Mr. Magoo, and so did Jean-Luc Picard. Patrick Stewart made a version. This one's my favorite.
Did he do it as Jean-Luc Picard? Because that one, I watched that one.
Patrick Stewart. Yeah. Well, it was pretty. Oh, the Fonz made a version of it too. That's my dog.
Hey, how much for the goose?
Hold on,
Actually, that sounded like a Sopranos there.
Movies next. I'm just gonna let my dog out here.
Okay.
What's she? Wait, what's his name? What's your dog's name?
Okay. Oh, that's Taj.
Taj.
Okay. Taj has a perfect record on this podcast. I think Taj has made an appearance on every time on every podcast that we've had you on.
And so is Squirrels. I think whenever a squirrel, a rabbit, or another dog walks past my window, he goes crazy. And so that's what prompted him to go out there.
Yeah. Okay.
I had to let him out.
Did you say that you had another category you wanted to discuss with us? Because I have something here for you. I have something for you.
Yeah, I've got all kinds of stuff for you. If you'll indulge me, there's if we could talk sports for a minute.
Okay.
I've got two movies that I really want to bring up. One of them is probably the most inspirational film I've ever seen since Rocky, and that is movie called Brittany Runs a Marathon. That movie is available streaming only. It's on Amazon, and that is a wonderful film. It's based on a true story. It's about a 20-something woman who is she's sort of living the life right now. She likes to go out and party. She's got a roommate who sort of a bad influence on her. And anyway, she goes to the doctor. The doctor kind of reads her the riot act. She says, listen, you're overweight. This is what your BMI is. You need to lose some weight. She ends up looking in the mirror and she says, okay, it's time. I need to do something about it. So she runs. So she joins a running club, and she gets inspired to run the New York City Marathon. And so it's sort of her story about how she goes on this emotional roller coaster of trying to give herself a better life, dealing with relationships, living in your 20s, toxic roommate. It's a movie about body shaming. It's a movie about self-image, and it's very inspirational. And then eventually it turns into her. She eventually does run the marathon at the end of the film, and it follows that path too. And it's just, as you follow her through the film, it's very well done, and it's very inspiring. And so I like that film a lot. And as someone who actually ran the damn marathon, I know how hard it is. And so I appreciated it a lot. And I think for somebody who's into the sport or even not into the sport, it's a very inspirational film.
Okay.
So I really like that movie a lot. And the other one I want to bring up is The Rustler, Mickey Rourke's film.
Oh, yeah.
Came out in the, I think, let's say 2004 or something like that. I'd have to look up the date, but that's just a great film. It's Mickey Rourke's best film. He plays an old wrestler at the end of his career, trying to reconnect with his daughter, and you get a really good look at the business and the life of a wrestler towards the end of their career, and just great acting, great writing. That's another one I highly recommend. That one's really underrated, in my opinion.
Okay, these are all great recommendations. You know, I went on IMDb just to see if they listed some like unappreciated films, lists in the categories we were talking about. See if any of these are in your book. Okay, in the crime section, Point Blank with Lee Marvin and Angie Dickinson. Is that in your book?
No.
Okay.
No, it's not.
Is it?
It's a good movie, though. Matter of fact, I just watched it.
Okay.
It was on Turner Classic Movies, and I just watched it. It was on a couple weeks ago, and I checked it out. It's a good movie.
For the comedy section, they've got What About Bob? That's the Bill Murray movie, right? Richard
What
Dreyfuss.
About Bob's not in there either, but that's another good one. I like that film. I like Bill Murray's funny when he's just a goofy, funny. When he's playing goofy, funny characters.
Yeah.
It's like now he's doing all the Wes Anderson. Now he's doing a lot of dramas. He's doing a lot of serious stuff, and I like Bill Murray when he's just being funny.
Just be goofy.
It's like his early stuff, being goofy. Give me Stripes.
Yeah, that's true.
Caddyshack.
Give me Stripes. That's Bill Murray.
In
Meatballs.
the romantic movie category, they recommended Flipped by Rob Reiner. Do you know that one?
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen that either. And then in the holiday one, they mentioned Gremlins, which I don't really think of as a holiday movie, but it does take place during the holidays, right?
Gremlins takes place during the holidays. I love Gremlins. I think it's hysterical. I like Gremlins 2 more than I like Gremlins. I think
really?
Gremlins 2, which I watched recently, is one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. It's just so crazy and so out there. Gremlins is not in my book, but I'm a big fan of Gremlins. I think it's very funny. I can see why it might be considered a holiday film because it does take take place at Christmas time. But I wouldn't call it underrated because that movie's got its fans. That movie's pretty popular.
We've talked to you about like 6 or 7 movies that are in your book, which means there's 193 or 94 books out there, movies
in that book. So
that you can read about. And tell people where they can find the book, Eric.
Yeah, and spell the website correctly.
Okay. Okay, you can find my book online at eckhartzpress.com, and Eckhartz is spelled ECKHARTZ.
There you go. Nice.
There you go. Press. PRESS.com. You can get it there online there. You could also find it at the Book Bin in Northbrook. It's on sale there. And
then we'll see you in
only
Skokie.
$20, and
We'll see you in Skokie
Yes.
next week.
yes, you can find me if you don't want to buy it online, and why wouldn't you? Unless you want to get one for me in person, you can see me personally in Skokie next week at Sketchbook, 4901 Main Street at 7:30. I will be signing books, and
Okay.
love to see you there.
Yeah. Well,
Thank you,
we'll be
Eric.
there. Yeah.
Appreciate you coming on the show, and we'll see you in a few
Always
days.
a pleasure, guys.
All right.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Eric.
Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye.
There he goes.
You know what I love about
Eric and Taj.
Whenever you talk to Eric,
Yeah.
he I'm surprised he didn't see. Is it flipped that he didn't see?
I see. I thought for sure he would have seen all of those because he knows
every
everything.
friggin'
Yeah.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I do like talking to him because I get some good ideas. All of those are good ideas. All right, people to thank, Dave. Who should we thank?
Let's thank Eric Litt
Okay.
for coming on the show. Thanks,
Right.
Eric. Ed Silla.
This is Eric's 4th time on the show.
So he's like one of the, at Saturday Night Live when you have like Martin Short has done Saturday Night Live like 9 times. or
Right,
whatever.
exactly.
Should we get him something like
Yeah, he's like, like
Chevy
David
Chase, or
Letterman's Richard Lewis.
Yes, right.
To
Or
us. Yeah.
David Brenner
Yeah.
for Johnny Carson.
Yep.
Tony Lasano, we should thank.
Yes, executive producer of the show. Thank you, Tony, for all you do. Also, thank you to Ed Silla of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. Great Talk Radio isn't dead. It just moved to another place, radiomisfits.com. And we'll be back again soon with another episode of
Minutia Men Celebrity Interview.
The proceeding was a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. Find our other great shows on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and at radiomisfits.com. Thank you.
This has been a presentation of Opie Productions.
Tony, can you shut up?